Hey friends, it's Emily. Welcome back to my channel. Today, in honor of it being finally October, I'm going to share a few of the books that I'm hoping to read in the next few weeks to honor autumn and fall. But first, I just wanted to say that I'm thinking of anybody who's been impacted by Hurricane Ian, whether it be in Florida, Georgia, South or North Carolina, or anywhere else, honestly, to anyone whose family, home, relatives, yourself, if you've been impacted, please know that I'm thinking of you. And if there are any legit, specific places where I can donate or point my subscribers to donate, please feel free to share in the comments, because these storms are no joke. As someone who's originally from New Jersey, it's no joke. I totally empathize. It's super scary. I was up all night worrying about losing power or a tree falling. So I can't even imagine what people in Florida or South Carolina are going through with flooding. It's super scary looking at radar, seeing how big these storms can get. Nature is very powerful, and unfortunately, it's not looking like it's gonna get any better. But we can only hope to prepare for the future, and hopefully we realize how severe these things can get and we can prepare. But right now, all we can do is help rebuild and support those who need it. So I just want to get that out of the way because it's very important. I didn't want to just glaze over that. So without further ado, let's get back into talking about some books. Books bring me comfort, so I hope that if anyone is impacted, that something like this brings you comfort or, helps you de-stress from a bad day, all the above. So these are the books that I'm hoping to get to in the next few weeks to celebrate autumn, enter my cozy fall era, have see my pumpkin bugs up there. I just got it from Anthropology and I'm obsessed with it. I can't wait to start using it. So let's dive into the books that I plan on reading. My fall TBR, autumn reads, all the above. Let's get into it. So the first book that I really want to read, I've seen the film series, the movies, well, all the above, what have you. But Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery is super, super high on my list. I don't own a physical copy, but I've seen those really pretty rifle paper covers. Very tempting. This is the epitome of comfort. I think it was written early 1908, and my comfort watch is the film series from the 80s, whether it was TV or film. I watched it as if they were movies. So the one with Megan Follows, oh my gosh. And it's just so heartwarming, very relatable as a child who loved to read and write and had a huge imagination. And also it just makes you want to visit Prince Edward Island so badly. That's one of the places in the world I want to visit the most and live out my Anne of Green Gables fantasy. One of my favorite quotes in the whole world of all time is from Anne of Green Gables, and it's, "I'm so glad I live in a world where there are Octobers." Perfection. It's I want that framed on my wall. I want that on every throw pillow. It's so true. Fall is a very magical time. It signifies change, changing seasons, changing temperatures, falling leaves, and it's just autumnal vibes are just, they're indescribable. And that's why I love that quote. And I can't wait to read it in physical form and see what the context is. I also loved Anne with an E. That series was great too. I just love Anne of Green Gables so much. It's so good. And I can't wait to see if there are any differences between the film, TV, and the book. Can't wait. The next set of books that I hope to read, hopefully by Halloween, I guess it would transfer well to November and fall too, is the entirety of the Harry Potter series. I mean, I've read them. These are ones that I have read a long time ago. But what I want to do, I want to listen to the audiobooks. And I know that will take some time, but it's something that is a goal of mine. I know that there are two narrators, Stephen Fry and Jim Dale. One respectively narrates the US versions and one narrates the UK versions. I've heard great things about both, but if you have a preference, tell me which ones I need to start out with. Just tell me. I would love to just get the recommendations and dive right in. And I mean, those Those bad boys are long books. I think in total, I looked it up, the entirety of the series, it's like 117 hours. I will rise to that challenge. But Harry Potter, it's very comforting, very nostalgic, covers those spooky, magical vibes, but then also transcends into the winter very well, I feel. So this one I can take my time with, but it's something I would like to start. I know it well, but I am very excited for the audiobook experience. Going off of that, another thing I would like to either read physically or by audiobook is the Outlander series. As you've seen in my past book shopping videos, I have been slowly but surely collecting physical versions of the paperbacks, but I've heard so many great things about the audiobook narrator that I want to dive into that too. And that one also covers, obviously, decades of time, covers various seasons, and something about Outlander, the whimsical magic of it all, reminds me of the fall. And I want to, mentally, I would like to be in Scotland, so that's on the list too. But that's also, those books are ginormous, rightfully so, and those audiobooks are beasts. And so balancing between Harry Potter and Outlander, you know, we're gonna figure it out, but we'll get there. I know a lot of what happens. I read this, I watch the series religiously. I love it so much. And I know, not that I'm going specifically for, you know, autumn in the title, fall in the title. The 4th book is Drums of Autumn. Very excited for that. And Dragonfly and Amber, for some reason, that just gives me fall vibes too. That's the 2nd book. I could be completely wrong on that, but just something about that title gives me fall energy, but it's not specifically related to fall in any way. It's a very important little note in the book. But I'm so excited to finally read those books, listen to them, transport myself, escape into it. If you have, I would love to hear what your favorite Outlander book was. I know it varies across the board for people, so if you wanted to share what your favorite book was, let's chat about it in the comments. So, pivoting a little bit genre-wise, one of the books that I want to read is a book that I picked up physically last year, and it's just been sitting on my shelf, untouched, because I've been trying to find the perfect time to read it, and I feel like fall will be the perfect time, even though it seems nautical themed. It is a creepy kind of book, so I think I waited for the right time to start reading it. And that is House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin A. Craig. And this one, I'm reading the little bio, but our first comments are, the first reviews are spooky, terrifying, oh my god, my hand's still trembling, containing gothic elements, ghosts, and curse. So I think that's a win in my book. I think I'm very excited for this. And I'll just read the little synopsis. In a manor by the sea, 12 sisters are cursed. Annalie lives in a sheltered life at Highmoor, a manor by the sea with her sister's father and stepmother. Once there were 12, but loneliness fills the grand halls now that 4 of the sisters' lives have been cut short. Each death more tragic than the last, the plague, a plummeting fall, a drowning, slippery plunge, and there are whispers throughout the surrounding villages that the family is cursed by the gods. Disturbed by a series of ghostly visions, Annalie becomes increasingly suspicious that the deaths were no accident. Her sisters had been sneaking out every night to attend glittering balls, dancing until dawn in silk gowns and shimmering slippers, and Annalie isn't sure whether to try to stop them or join their forbidden trysts. Because who or what are they really dancing with? So, this one also has pretty good ratings too. It was published in 2019. So, and luckily I had nothing spoiled, so perfect timing to just get this book out of the way before I'm able to be spoiled. But something about mystery, creepy, but nautical, all of my vibes wrapped into one. So I cannot wait to read this book. If you've read it, let me know how you liked it or didn't like it, or maybe both. We'll see. The next book that I hope to read is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. And this is one of those movies too where it's a total comfort watch. Total comfort watch. I want to live in that house. So I want to make margaritas at midnight in that house. So I cannot wait to read the book and see if the book has main differences, compare the two. And that one I feel like is pretty self-explanatory. Cozy vibes, witches, a little bit of comedy, but also, I mean, I could be totally wrong. I'm just going based off of the movie. I've never read the book. So if you've read this, I would love to hear if you liked it or not too. But this one I think is, when you think of fall, practical magic automatically comes to mind. The next piece of work that I'd like to read is The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is a play, and we read it in high school. I'm sure 85% of America read this in high school. I could be wrong. And each person, of course, was assigned a part. I don't even remember what part I was assigned, but this is a play from the 50s that it's a dramatized, fictionalized story set in the time period of the Salem witch trials, which is a topic all in itself incredibly interesting. And Salem is definitely somewhere that I'd like to visit in the future. But this one basically is a fictionalized retelling of the Salem witch trials, focused on some fictional, some real characters, of course, with artistic license. And I cannot wait. I mean, the movie, there's also a movie as well. I think there's a few. But the movie that most people have seen is with Daniel Day-Lewis and Winona Ryder. Very good. So maybe I'll add that to the list too, of things to watch. But I definitely want to read the play, relive my high school days, and kind of get into that historical part of fall. Another cozy read / classic that I would like to read is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Of course, there's two major movie versions of this. One for the 90s, Winona Ryder again. I'm sensing a theme here. And Christian Bale, among other stars. And then the 2019 with Saoirse Ronan, Florence Pugh, etc., etc. Timothée. So that movie has an automatic golden tinge to it, automatically transports you to Massachusetts in the 1800s. Beautiful, beautiful. But I would love to read the written form. I feel like it's one of those books that a lot of people read in their childhood. I had it, but I didn't read it. So again, I think there's also a really pretty rifle paper cover of that too that I might just snag, but I cannot wait to read it and see if I identify with Jo, Beth, blanking, Meg, and Amy. Which one do I identify with most out of the written form? The next book that I like to read is from an author that I've never read before. Very, very popular author, Colleen Hoover. I don't know that much about her books. I luckily have never been spoiled in any of them. I know they're very, very popular. And I think of all the books that I would read by this author, Verity would be the book that I'd read. And this seems like the perfect time to read that. I think that is also mystery. Going in completely blind, do not know one thing about this book. So please do not spoil it for me. I've managed to go unscathed, so please, please, please don't spoil it. But without getting into it too deeply, I think I'm going to add this one to my list for fall. Another book that I'd love to read is Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. Dana Schwartz, of course, the writer and podcaster of Noble Blood, which is an amazing podcast if you love history, and specifically noble history, royalty. She does a wonderful job researching and is a great narrator to these wild tales of nobility throughout thousands of years of history. It's also a great podcast to listen to in the fall. I feel some of them are very spooky, but just she does a great job narrating and researching. It's so well done. And when I heard she was writing a book, it was so exciting. The cover is one of the best covers I've ever seen for a book. And there's a sequel coming that has an equally beautiful cover. I cannot speak today. And so this one is set in Edinburgh. So automatic, spooky vibes. And it's a romance, I believe. And I won't get too into the plot, but it's going to be a perfect fall read, I know. Another little book that I'd love to get back into is The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. We had these in our elementary school library, and I was always too freaked out to read them, but I feel like it would be a good time to kind of just check them out, read them again, and relive how I felt in middle school or elementary school when I was too afraid to read them. Now we're getting into the more traditional kind of thriller books that you would think that I'd put on this list. I've never read a Stephen King before. I've seen The Shining, but I really would like to read Misery. And that is from 1987, and psychological horror thriller, all that jazz. I feel like that's a good little gateway into the world of Stephen King. If I'm wrong, let me know. If you have any other good gateways into Stephen King, let me know. But I feel like this kind of hits all of the notes that I want going into the fall season. Another novel that I'd like to read, not knowing anything about it, I've heard about it many times, but Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Of course, as many American high schoolers, we all read Fahrenheit 451. But Something Wicked This Way Comes, that just gives me automatic Halloween, fall vibes. I love the part in Prisoner of Azkaban and Harry Potter where the frog choir is singing Something Wicked This Way Comes, a la Macbeth, right? So this one, it's a dark fantasy novel, fantasy horror. You know what? I think that will be a good one too. It was written in the 1960s. All right, potential here, potential. If you've read this one, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And finally, this is a long shot, but I feel like if there was any time to read these books, now will be the perfect time. But of course, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. The ACOTAR series is very prolific in the literature world, and I'm sure soon to be television world. I believe it's going to be on Hulu eventually. But this is something where I do love fantasy in doses. I loved Game of Thrones. That's totally my cup of tea. And this one, it's very intimidating at first because it's so popular and it makes a lot of people feel a certain way. But I feel like I do need to give it a fair go. And I don't know whether I'm gonna physically read, or I have heard there are these graphic audios where they underlay music. There's multiple speakers, there's sound effects. I feel like that would really be a great thing to listen to in the fall. But maybe what I'll do is read them straight through and then listen to them with the graphic audio, because I think they've also cut things out of the graphic audio from the books. So I feel like that's gonna be a great kind of fall fantasy, maybe even winter too if it takes me that long. But I definitely want to read those, and maybe I'll vlog it if you have any interest in watching me react to ACOTAR for the first time without any spoilers. As far as I know, I just know names. I literally have been able to stay away from spoilers, so please don't spoil it for me. So if you would like me to vlog that, please let me know. I'm really excited to hopefully knock those out and finally be able to join the conversation. So that does it for my fall TBR, books I want to read in autumn video. I'm sure I'm missing a few that I'll think of later, but these are the books that I would recommend to anyone looking for either cozy, creepy, comforting reads to just start off the fall with. Even though I haven't read most of them, these are what come to mind when I think of fall. I hope you enjoyed. If you've read any of these books, I'd love to chat about them in the comments. If you're interested in more fall-ish, book-ish, autumnal-ish videos, I hope you stick around. Like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I will see you next time. Thanks.